Welcome back to the program. We are joined today by Ehud Olmert, the former Prime Minister of Israel. So thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask some about the domestic implications of the current conflict. So when you look at the scale, duration, and intensity of the conflict over the past 2 years, how do you assess the impact on, I guess, both Israeli security as well as society?
Well, as you all know, the conflict at this time, I mean, on the 7th of October 2023, started because of a very vicious, horrific, barbaric, brutal attack by the legions of Hamas against Israeli civilians. It has to be emphasized that the attack of Hamas was not aimed at soldiers, was not against military barracks or military camps or military installations. They penetrated into the houses of people and they killed and butchered and beheaded and raped people in their homes, in the living rooms, in the bedrooms. So, of course, the impact was monumental. There was never anything of this nature that have happened before to the people of Israel. More than 1,200 civilians were massacred in the most horrific manner. And the immediate reaction of most of the Israelis was we have to immediately reach out for all the killers in order to eliminate them. We have to distinguish between the realistic security danger of the situation in the south on the first place and what happened in reality on that day. Had you asked me then, is there any serious danger to the very survival of the state of Israel in the south part because of the potential attack by Hamas? I would have said then, no, there is not. And I still say even today that on the 7th of October, in spite of what happened, there was not a real, genuine, realistic danger to the security of the state of Israel. What happened is that state of Israel, which is enormously powerful from a military point of view, was not there to defend the people living there. Assuming that we know that there is Hamas there, we have built military installations, technological defense systems, and we are supposed to have an army of few infantry legions and tanks and choppers and planes in order to be on the alert in the event that there will be an attack. Had all of this power been in place when the attack took place, nothing would have happened. They would have been destroyed in a matter of a couple of hours, and they would have been all pushed out and never come back. So the danger, objectively speaking, was not realistic had we applied all the necessary defense systems in order to be ready in the event that there will be an attack. But when no army was there, no defense system operated, no tanks, no military, no choppers, nothing, no soldiers ready on the alert, they just took a trip. They crossed the border with their cars and motorcycles, and they penetrated into the settlements and the houses without anyone confronting them and defending against them. And the outcome, therefore, was devastating. But that is not a result of the lack of defense capacity for Israel. That was a result of arrogance and complacency and overconfidence that caused the total absence of the defense forces. That had they been there, nothing would have happened.
You have been somewhat critical of the response by Prime Minister Netanyahu following these attacks, though. What do you think of his leadership in terms of what he should have done differently?
Look, the Israeli counteroffensive turned out to be inevitable. Okay, so I was not against the Israeli reaction when it happened. The fact that it happened, as I said before, was a result of a complacency, of arrogance that was, I think, represented by Netanyahu's attitude and the fact that he really genuinely believed that he can ignore the Palestinian Authority, which were the natural partner for peace negotiations, and rather flirt with the Hamas, and by Hamas some kind of a tacit cooperation with Israel for the funds that he allowed to transfer to them from Qatar, hundreds of millions of dollars. And he thought that he can buy them with money as a way of life. My first criticism against the government is on what happened all the years until the 7th of October 2023. The fact that we refrained from handling meaningful contacts with the Palestinian Authority, the fact that we refrained from establishing a negotiating process, meaningful negotiating process for comprehensive peace between us and the Palestinians with the Palestinian Authority was a dramatic historical error that can't be forgotten and can't be forgiven. And that has caused the total reliance on the tacit cooperation between us and Hamas. Netanyahu turned out to be the greatest ally of Hamas. Netanyahu is the one that provided all the military, all the financial background that allowed Hamas to build all the undercity of tunnels in Gaza, and that to purchase and produce all these thousands of rockets that they could produce because of the monies that they got from Qatar through the good services of the Israeli government and the Prime Minister of Israel. So that is the strategy, the concept, the total lack of understanding that making peace with the Palestinian Authority is the real strategic interest of the State of Israel, rather than trying to manage the conflict by refraining from making a peace and by a kind of negotiating tacitly through the good services of Qatar with Hamas. This was the major mistake that caused the 7th of November on the first place. Second issue is when we decided to react, how smart was the reaction? How useful was the reaction? Here, I have to say that, first of all, it was inevitable. The fact that the 7th of October happened, as I said, was a result of the Israeli mistakes. But when it happened, no country in the world could tolerate the massacre of so many people and the destruction that caused by this attack and not react. So it was obvious that he will have to react, and that our react will have to reach out for the Palestinians, the leaders of Hamas in Gaza. And it was also obvious to everyone that they are hiding inside the urban centers in Gaza on ground and underground, and in hospitals, in public facilities, in mosques, in schools, in private homes, and therefore to reach out for the leaders of Hamas inevitably may have caused, as it did, a collateral damage, a massive collateral damage. And therefore, and I think that this was obvious to everyone, when President Biden or Prime Minister Rishi Sunak in Great Britain, or President Macron or Chancellor Scholz, or Prime Minister Meloni, and all of the European leaders and American leaders and the world leaders said Israel has a right to reach out for them, they knew that many Palestinians will be killed, and some of the Palestinians that will be killed will not be involved in terror, but given the circumstances, it was an inevitable outcome of the right of Israel to reach out for the Hamas leaders. The question is, number one, how much could we carry on? And number two, what was the strategy of Israel in view of the military reaction that we perpetrated? What was the strategy for the day after? Now, the problem was that, number one, we kept on fighting and fighting and fighting the huge military power of Israel against these terrorists. And at some point, we have reached a point where the additional military action did not produce any kind of result which was worth the cost of lives of Israeli soldiers, the cost of the lives of Israeli hostages, which we know lost their lives as a result of the Israeli attacks and the reaction of those who were abducted, those who abducted the Hamas that abducted the Israeli hostages, and also of non-involved Palestinians. But the most dramatic failure of the Israeli government was the inability to provide a vision about the day after, for us and for Gaza. What was the Israeli plan? Everyone asked the Prime Minister, okay, you want to kill, okay, more. But what do you have in mind to the day after? What is the vision? What is the political horizon that Israel proposes? The failure to provide a military horizon was I think, the greatest mistake that caused for the international community to lose patience with the Israeli military, continued the Israeli attack. And I think it reached a climax in March of 2025, when the Prime Minister decided not to continue the negotiating process, which started, and there was an agreement sponsored by the United States that we will, after the 18th of March 2025, we will continue negotiations for the end of the war and the return of all the hostages. And Netanyahu decided that he wants to expand the war. Then the international community said, why do you want to expand the war? We can end the war and bring back all the hostages. And this was not said only by the international community, but thousands of Israelis, not just rank and file, not just the grassroots in the street, but the most important senior former Israeli generals and military commanders, and the commander-in-chief of the Israeli, former commander-in-chief of the Israeli armies, and the heads of Mossad, and the head of the security services, they all signed a petition saying, we don't need to expand the war, we don't need to lose more soldiers, we don't need to lose more hostages, we don't need to continue to kill more non-involved Palestinians, end the war now. And when Netanyahu decided to continue, the war lost its legitimacy, not just in Israel, but across the world. And that has caused a dramatic erosion in the status of the state of Israel across the world. The riots, the demonstrations, the protest movements across the world became a major damage, caused a major damage to the reputation of the State of Israel and to the status of the State of Israel across the world.
So, how has this manifested itself in the sentiment, though, among the Israeli public? How do you see the war affecting, I guess, social cohesion? And are there concerns about the national ethos of Israel, or is it more the reactions from abroad?
Well, I think that, look, the reactions from abroad are not making life very easy and very pleasant to all of us. And I myself am just globetrotting. I'm flying from every different parts of the world on a weekly basis. I was last week in Japan and then in Berlin, and this week I'll be in London, and then I'll be in Germany again, and so on and so forth. And I'm trying to explain and to present the different perspectives that many Israelis have, and it's not easy and it's not simple. I'm quite encouraged by the good reaction that I personally receive when I try to explain to people that I'm one individual, but I speak for millions of Israelis who disagree with the government, and that people should know that there is a large part of the Israeli public opinion does not support these policies, are against the continued fighting in Gaza, are against killing of non-involved Palestinians, are against the atrocities committed by the Hilltop youth in the West Bank against innocent Palestinians and so on. It's very important for me that people will know across the world that what they hear about the government does not necessarily represent all of the population. And we are rioting and demonstrating on a daily basis in the streets of Tel Aviv and Jerusalem and across the country in a very dramatic manner. But in as long as this government is in charge, it's not so simple, because sometimes people say to me, okay, this is what you say, but presently the Minister of National Security, Ben-Gvir, or the Minister of Finance, Smotrich, or the Prime Minister, or the Minister of Defense are saying different things. And they say that we have to kill everyone, we have to destroy everything, and so on and so forth. So, okay, but how can we tolerate this? I know this is a problem. We are trying to battle it, and I hope that we will succeed to ultimately to present, to restore the basic values, the fundamental attitudes which characterize the State of Israel for generations back into center stage in Israel. And it's not easy, because the movement of protest started in Israel actually before October 7th, when the Prime Minister, as a result of the fact that he was indicted for major criminal charges in the district court in Jerusalem, started to change the judicial system in order to try and rid himself of the danger of losing his position and being convicted in the court of law in Israel. And now they continue to try and change some of the basic democratic laws of the State of Israel. They don't recognize the government doesn't recognize the Supreme Court of Justice. Minister of Justice says that he does not recognize the president of the Supreme Court, and so on and so forth. So we are in the middle of a battle which polarized and divided the Israeli society. And that has weakened the State of Israel. I think that according to all the polls in Israel, more than 60% of the Israelis, which is a majority, do not trust the Prime Minister and do not think that what motivates the government are the real genuine interest of the State of Israel, rather the political interest of the government and the prime minister.
Well, some observers have warned that there could be even risk of civil war. Do you think that is overblown or is not in that ballpark?
The risk is not overblown. I hope that it will not take place, but I am not happy and I'm not relaxed. I do think that they have taken it to an extreme that challenges the stability of our democratic system and also the stability of our social relations between the different sections of the Israeli population inside our country, largely as a result of the incitements and the polarization which has been exercised so much by the government.
Well, Israel has always been very well dependent on the partnership with the United States. But how do you see Israeli security being impacted by the, I guess, shift in the international distribution of power? That is, the US seems to have, under multipolar system, have a reduced influence in the Middle East. And when the Americans have to make priorities, it will likely fuel more critical voices in terms of what areas they should be present. So, for example, in Europe, they want to deprioritize, and there's also more criticism now concerning too much support for Israel. How do you see Israel adjusting to these shifts in power?
I think that you take it a little bit too far. The changes in the, I think if there is something which has been proved and I think manifested in a very dramatic manner, is that actually the United States influence in the region has grown dramatically. I don't know how stable it is. I don't know how consistent it will be. Remains to be seen. And we know that we have to deal with a president who everyone says is completely unpredictable. So we don't know what will be the policy of Trump in tomorrow. He doesn't know. So how can we know? But at the same time, don't forget America attacked Iran, something that 5 American presidents before Trump promised that they will do in order to prevent, not that they will attack, but that they will prevent Iran from continuing its nuclear program. And only Trump actually translated it into a military aerial attack against Iran in a very dramatic way. And also, he now ran this the Sharm el-Sheikh conference, and he had in Sharm el-Sheikh leaders from every corner of the world, from Turkey to Indonesia to the Saudis to the Emirates to everyone. So Egypt and Jordan and all the others. So number one, I don't think that the American influence necessarily was reduced, perhaps on the contrary. But I think if there is one thing which was manifested in the most dramatic manner is the enormous Israeli military superiority. Hezbollah is more or less gone. Okay, they are trying now to restore something, to rebuild something, but we know what happened to them, okay? And Nasrallah is no more with us. Assad and the Syrian administration collapsed, and America is now hosting Ashara al-Julani, the new president of Syria, and they are going to to sign an agreement of cooperation between America and Syria that was a basis of Iran and of Russia for many years. So this is also a positive change from the security interest of the state of Israel. The Houthis are episode, which is not really serious, and we know how to handle them if necessary. Hamas is hardly exist. The Iranian militias in Iraq are almost non-existent. So I think from a military point of view, what was manifested, number one, is a growing presence, political presence, and also potential military presence of the United States in the region. And number two, an enormous Israeli military superiority. Israel has been successful in controlling the airs of Tehran, eliminating 30 or more of the most important military and political leaders of the Revolutionary Guards in Tehran. And when Israel was attacked by ballistic missiles, not only Israel, but America and Great Britain and France were participating in defending the state of Israel, and some Arab countries as well, Saudis and Jordan in Egypt and others. So the security state position of Israel is much better. The strength of Israel, the ability of Israel to defend itself is much better. The rhetoric of Israel, the statements made by the prime minister and the other ministers of his Messianic supporters is outrageous, unacceptable, and does not represent the real national needs of the state of Israel. So the appearance is different than the actual status of Israel. We are in a much better place, and I personally think that we are in a position to be able to take all the risks necessary in order to embark on a meaningful process of negotiations, opening a dialogue with the Palestinian Authority in order to start and build up a process that will lead us into a comprehensive solution on the basis of two states.
And in terms of finding a diplomatic solution with the Iranians, though, do you see any pathway? Because I know there was of course, attack this year on Iran, but in 2023, after China brokered this Saudi-Iran reconciliation, we saw that the former director of Mossad, Ephraim Halevi, he argued that Israel should then consider also pursuing improved ties with Iran. Is there any appetite, do you think, in Israel at the moment to, I guess, to find a political settlement with the Iranians, or you think it's the mood has changed too much?
Had I been Prime Minister of Israel, I would have tried to reach out for the Iranians and sit down with them and tell them, listen, it's about time. Enough is enough. You can't destroy us, and we can't destroy you. If you think that you can try to outsmart us with all your proxies in Lebanon, in Gaza, in Syria, in Iraq, I think you found out that it doesn't work. So why not start to change direction? I don't know if Iran would have been ready for it, but I'm not certain that it's not worth to try. And as I said, had I been prime minister, that's what I would have done.
Just my last quick question is, I actually met you back in 2018 in Kazakhstan, and at that time you were referring to how important relationship, the strategic stability, rested also to some extent on the good relations between Russia and Israel, but which is valued by both sides. But over the past few years now, I guess for two reasons. One would be Israel's support for Ukraine, but the second would be Russia's closer ties with Iran. We see that relations are not as they used to be. Do you see any concerns, or do you think the splits or divisions are exaggerated?
Look, I just heard that Kazakhstan wants to join the Abraham Accords. This is somewhat funny, considering the fact that we have diplomatic relations with Kazakhstan for the last 30 years. Abraham Accords were agreements that were signed by countries that had no relations before. Kazakhstan joins while having already peace relations and cooperation and friendly cooperation with the state of Israel for many years. So I think that, look, Israel is in a good position presently if it wants to pursue a policy different from that of Ben-Gvir and Smotrich. If we are seriously interested in building up again the potential of Israel, the high-tech achievements, the economic success, the academic cooperation we have built up, then there is no end to the options that we face. And we will be able to handle. But this is a question whether the government of Israel, the present government of Israel, is interested in all of this, or they are interested in fulfilling these messianic dreams of taking over Gaza for the resettling of Jews and then expelling all of the Arabs from the West Bank and the Palestinians from the West Bank in order to resettle and integrate it there. I think that this is the strategy. I think that the way to change the situation is to get rid of our government, and I hope that it will happen soon. And then I think we can start again strategic talks, not just with the Americans, who are our natural partners and defenders, not only with the Saudis and the Emiratis and the other countries in this area, but also with re-establishing the trust that once existed also between us and Russia and between us and the Chinese.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr.